Dear Dearie, welcome to TMI Tuesday. Oh, have I got a thing for you today? Not like a thing, but a story. Yeah, a story. Maybe a couple of them. It depends on how fast I get through this first one. I think. Let me double check and make sure that I'm thinking of the right story, because I've got a couple of them that are on my mind, and some of them are okay. Every now and again, you know how your brain does this weird thing where it combines things that should not be combined? Yesterday, I woke up from a nap, and for some reason, I was thinking about Pinocchio. I don't know why, because I hadn't been thinking about Pinocchio. I wasn't dreaming about Pinocchio. Pinocchio was the first thing I thought of when I woke up. Specifically, it was Jiminy Cricket's line, "Always let your conscience be your guide." Now, how is that even remotely TMI? Well, in my brain, I was picturing Pleasure Island at the time, which is where Pinocchio and all the little boys go to, and they get turned into donkeys. If you haven't seen the movie, you really should watch it, because there's some dark shit going on in that thing, because they get sent to Pleasure Island, and they're smoking and they're drinking and everything else, and I can't remember the name of the guy who once they turn into donkeys, he takes them and sells them as, donkeys to people. I don't think he tells them that, oh yeah, this was a kid, a couple of days ago, and not like a little baby goat. I mean, this was, a little boy. Anyway, one of his lines in the movie is, if you give a bad boy enough rope, eventually he'll make a jackass out of himself. And so, Pinocchio's hanging out with these other boys, and they're smoking cigars and drinking beers and stuff, and they start turning into donkeys. And for some reason, I think it's the fact that where I'm staying, the older gay couple that I dog sit for this past weekend, in the bedroom where I was sleeping, there are two calendars with naked men on them. So it's the first thing I see when I wake up. So my brain, in my sleep-addled state, combines these two concepts of Pinocchio at Pleasure Island with naked men. And the fact that always let your conscience be your guide is stuck in my head. Now sometimes I'm glad I'm not an artist, because I would feel just compelled to draw this horrible image I have in my head, and I can't get rid of it, of Jiminy Cricket standing there with his dick in one hand and a megaphone in the other, shouting at Pinocchio, who is turning into a donkey and fucking another donkey, telling him what to do, and it's always let your conscience be your donkey fucking guide. And I'm just like, no, this is not cool. Don't do this. Moving on to something a little less. Let me double check that. A little less creepy. Maybe. Years ago, when I still lived in Texas, after I got out of the Army, before I moved to California, I was in a play. I didn't mean to be in the play. It just sort of happened. A buddy of mine wanted to go and audition for this play, and he didn't, he didn't want to go by himself, so he asked me to go along for moral support. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll go with you, but I'm not auditioning. He's like, I know, I just want you to just be there to support me and hold your hand. He's like, no, because I had just come out to him recently, and he was like, you're what? And I'm like, gay, and he was like, okay, I'm not sure how to feel about that. I said, don't worry, dude, I am not going to try to suck your cock, okay? We're fine. He's like, oh, okay, so you're not, no, Besides, you've got a girlfriend, so don't worry about it. I did not include the piece of data that if he had asked me, because I didn't have a crush on him in high school, but I did think he was, quite attractive. And though he was my best friend, if he had asked me to, I probably would have played around with him, but I really didn't think he was interested, so I never pushed it. Anyway, let's get back onto the main story. We went up to Denton because we lived in Lake Dallas, Texas at the time. And we went up to Denton where the auditions were being held. And so we're sitting there in the room and everything. And the writer, director, producer guy is sitting there and he's asking everybody, here's a copy of the script. Here's, which character do you want to play and, or audition for and whatnot. And he kind of turned to me and he's like, which character were you auditioning for? I said, I'm not here to audition. He just wanted moral support, so I'm here for that. And he's like, oh, okay, well, we don't have enough people, so would you at least consider, we need an extra voice, if nothing else, reading a line or two from one of the other characters just so we have. I said, yeah. And so he handed me a script and he's like, okay, I need you to do, can you do like a just a thick, kind of Texas accent? I said, what part of Texas? He's like, just Texas. I'm like, no, what part of Texas? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, okay, let's just go locally. I mean, if you're from Dallas, you're gonna have a twang like this kind of thing. But if you're from Fort Worth, you're gonna have a little bit more of a drawl like this. And he's like, will you be in my play? I'm like, no, I don't want to audition. He's like, oh my God, you have to be in my. I'm like, oh God. So ultimately, I wind up playing this 16-year-old, trailer trash guy named Wayne Bob Loser. The play was called Supper with the Losers. And you had Ma Loser, Pa Loser, Wayne Bob Loser, Sheila Joe Bob Loser, Harry Becky Bob Loser. Those were the three kids. It was an amazing play. Anyway, so we had, we'd all been cast and everything, and we were getting close to time for production. We'd been rehearsing for a long time, and I still had a job in Dallas, and Dallas and Denton are not exactly next door neighbors. I mean, in the galactic scheme of things, they're practically right on top of each other, but they're a good 30 miles, away from each other. And so I would have to get up in the morning in the house where I lived in Lake Dallas, which is like 6 miles south of Denton, and drive the 30 miles to Dallas, or so. And then do my job as a porter at a used car lot, washing all the cars, keeping them, nice and keeping just below a half a tank of gas and, all that stuff. And then when I finished that, drive all the way back up to Denton to rehearse for the night, and then drive back to, my house and go to sleep and get up about 3 or 4 hours later to drive back down to Dallas to work. And of course, my stepfather, who was my boss, because it was the used car lot that he worked at. That's where I was working. And my stepfather is a fucking asshole. Now, a lot of teenagers say that. He is a fucking asshole. And of course, my mother, she's always like, well, he has a lot of good qualities. You just don't see them. I said, I don't see them because I think you're making them up. Or, there are just too many cases where he has completely screwed me over. I mean, let's just welching on bets. Raising me to say never, ever lie under any circumstances. And then when I start filling out resumes to say, well, just tell them that you've done it. I'm like, but that's a lie. So, well, in this case, it's okay. I'm like, no, you don't get to pull that shit. Dickhead. I really don't like my stepfather very much. Part of the reason why I've never gone back. After I came out to my family, my mother just she just sort of walled it off. She didn't know how to feel about it. She had, I know, ricochet off on a different tangent, but she didn't know how to feel about it. And she had a lot of gay friends growing up, and she loved them all. But apparently this was a little too close to home. And I can accept that. I have no problem accepting that. It's the fact that, I was in a relationship. This was the bear guy. Posey, whose house recently burned down. I was in a relationship with him, and my mother had asked me, on the phone, when are you going to come back to visit? I said, well, if I come back, I'm bringing my husband with me, and you really need to be ready to deal with that. And she's like, I'm like, nope. Clearly you're not. And I had given her the phone number to every single chapter of PFLAG, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, and I know I've talked about this before, in the greater Dallas Metroplex. I'm like, what the support group, structure is like. You did it for Overeaters Anonymous. These people can help you. Call them. I don't care which chapter you call. Just call somebody. I am not coming home until you do. And that's why I haven't talked to her in going on 16 years, I think. Anyway, so, right. So back to the play. Woo! We will eventually get there. No sleep for a long, long time. And I was delirious. I mean, I was I was starting to hallucinate. Things were getting really bad. I was absolutely just gone. We were in a copy shop making copies of the playbill for the play. And, the guy, the writer, director, producer dude, he's sitting there and he's paying for all the stuff. And I'm just standing there, just gone, just zonked out. And kind of looking through the plate glass window at the front of the shop. And I see Santa Claus go walking down the street and stop, back up to a dumpster, pull his pants down, spray shit all over the dumpster, shake his ass like a little bowl of Jell-O that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of Hello or something, pull up his pants and walk away. And I just kind of snapped. I was like, I just saw Santa Claus shit on a dumpster. And I was just gone. I could not stop laughing. I was just like, out of it. Just, cuckoo, just gone. Michael, the writer, turns around and is like, what? And I'm like, I saw Santa Claus shit on a dumpster right out there just now. My friend Ben was like, I don't know what's going on with him. I'm like, oh. And Michael looked at Ben. He's like, you need to take him home, right? Now I'm like, no, I'm serious. I saw it. It happened just now, right out there. Santa Claus just shit on a dumpster. They wouldn't believe me. I told them, and they wouldn't believe me. 3 months later, I ran into Michael again. This was well after we'd finished performing the play and everything. And he came up to me. He's like, oh, dude, I'm so glad I run into you. I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, it's going good. One thing though. I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, so the other day I was driving down Hickory and I saw Santa Claus. And I'm like, uh-huh. Yeah. He's like, and I asked, some of the shop owners around there about it, and apparently it's this homeless guy who's got this long white hair and a beard, and he wears this red, sweatsuit all the time, and he's just completely homeless, and he just walks around, and whenever he has to shit, he just stops, drops his pants, and just unloads wherever the hell he is. And I was like, don't you ever not believe me again when I tell you I watched Santa Claus shit on a dumpster. I mean, it's a fairly, tight range of events that the likelihood of that ever happening again is not real good. But still, the next time I tell you I watched Santa Claus shit on a dumpster, you'd better fucking believe me, because it happened. And I finally, after a little while, had, somebody else saw Santa Claus too. And people have seen him shit on dumpsters, so shut up. Or you're going to get something gross in your stocking, probably, because, Santa's a dick like that. Oh, God. Oh. That was a fucked up night. Because I was doubting my sanity. Oh yes. Oh yes. The last time I had been awake that long was in basic training, when they were kind of stress testing us to figure out how we deal with sleep deprivation. And it was right at the beginning of basic training. I had just gotten there, and we were sitting on just a little grassy field thing because we were between rounds of shots, and I'd been awake for, I guess, going on 36 hours or so. And they came by and they said, how long have you been here? And what they meant was, how long had we been sitting there? And I was like, 2 weeks, I think. And they're like, no. How long have you been sitting here? Said, oh, I thought you meant how long have we been here in basic training? They're like, wait, you're getting your shots 2 weeks in? I was like, what? And he said, no, you got here yesterday. I'm like, no, it's been like 2 weeks. And he's like, no, it hasn't. You've been here for like a day and a half. And I was like, no, that's not possible. It feels like it's been 2 weeks. And they're like, okay, sleep deprivation and you do not get along. And I'm like, okay, but it's 2 weeks. No, it's not. So yeah, I had a harder time dealing with sleep deprivation back then. Now I'm a little bit better about it, but I don't really let it hit me that much. Usually when somebody's like, this happened at EA a lot, and they're like, okay, well, we need you to, come back in like 2 hours. I'm like, how about no? Fuck you. I'm losing any and all ability to function. I'm not going to be any use if I come back in 2 hours. No. And they're like, well, we really need you to come in. So I don't care. I'm not coming in. You want to fire me? You go ahead. You saw how the EA spouse thing worked out for you. Don't even try to fire me for not coming in. And so I went home and I got a good, 5-6 hours sleep, and I came back in and everything was fine. Don't let people, like employers and stuff, force you to do unhealthy shit. They cannot legally do that. And if they fire you for it, take them before the Wages and Hours Board, if you have one in your state or country, because that is not legal. Just saying. Right now we're getting off on something, we need to do like a lawyer lose day, or no, but I'm not a lawyer. So anyway, so yeah, I watched Santa Claus shit on a dumpster. 17 hours, 45 seconds of Santa shitting on a dumpster, and donkey fucking Pinocchios. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go. Hopefully I don't have any kind of erotic nightmares about the incredible Mr. Limpet, because that would really, really bother me a lot. All right, so you guys go ahead and do your whatever you're going to do, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, okay? Be careless.